My name is Emily Carter, and the person who gave me my life was the same person who almost destroyed it. I never thought I would have to stand in a courtroom and watch my own mother face prison. The woman who held my hand when I was a child. The woman who worked 2 jobs to put food on our table. The woman who always told me, family is everything. That same woman became the reason my entire life started falling apart. Because my mother stole my identity. She used my personal information. She opened accounts under my name. She signed documents pretending to be me. And she did it all to save my younger brother. A brother who had made one mistake after another. A brother who was drowning in debt. A brother my mother believed she had to protect, no matter what the cost was. But she never imagined that the person paying the biggest price would be me. My credit score was destroyed. My future plans were damaged. My trust in my own family disappeared. And the hardest part? The person who betrayed me was the person I trusted the most. Before I continue this emotional story, make sure you watch until the end because the final decision my mother made changed our family forever. If you enjoy powerful family stories about betrayal, sacrifice, and unexpected twists, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story. Now, let me take you back to where everything began, because this story did not start with a crime. It started with love. My name is Emily Carter, and I grew up in a small neighborhood outside Chicago, Illinois. My childhood was not perfect, but my mother always tried to make it feel that way. Her name was Linda Carter. She was a single mother who raised 2 children after my father left when I was only 6 years old. I still remember those early years. My mother waking up before sunrise, making breakfast, going to work, coming home tired. Then staying awake late at night to pay bills and prepare for the next day. She never complained. Even when things were difficult, she smiled. Whenever I asked her if she was okay, she always gave me the same answer. I'm fine, sweetheart. As long as my children are happy, I'm happy. And I believed her. To me, my mother was a hero. She sacrificed everything for us. She gave up vacations. She wore old clothes so we could have new ones. She worked extra hours so my brother and I could have opportunities she never had. I promised myself that one day I would make her proud. My younger brother, Daniel, was 5 years younger than me. Growing up, he was the funny one. Everyone loved him. He could make anyone laugh. My mother always said he had a special heart, but as we got older, Daniel started making choices that worried everyone. While I focused on school, building my career, and creating a stable life, Daniel struggled. He changed jobs constantly. He borrowed money from friends. He ignored responsibilities. At first, I tried to help him. After all, he was my little brother. But over time, something became clear. My mother was always saving him. Every mistake Daniel made became an emergency. Every problem became something my mother had to fix. And somehow, I was always expected to understand. One night, I received a phone call from my mother. It was around 10 p.m. I was sitting alone in my apartment after a long day at work when my phone started ringing. When I saw her name on the screen, I immediately answered. Mom, is everything okay? There was silence. I could hear her breathing. Then she finally said, Emily, I need your help. The way she said those words made my stomach tight. Because I knew something was wrong. What's happening? Another long pause, then she whispered, It's about Daniel. I closed my eyes, because deep down I already knew, my brother was in trouble again. But what I didn't know was that this time, my mother's solution would destroy my life. The next morning, I drove to my mother's house. I remember the entire drive feeling strange. Usually, when my mother called me late at night asking for help, I expected something simple. Maybe she needed help fixing something around the house. Maybe she needed advice. Maybe she just wanted to talk. But this time felt different. There was fear in her voice, and my mother was not someone who scared easily. When I arrived, I saw my brother Daniel sitting on the couch. His head was down. His eyes were red. My mother was standing in the kitchen, holding a cup of coffee she wasn't even drinking. I walked inside and immediately knew this was serious. What happened? I asked. Daniel looked at me but didn't say anything. Finally, my mother sat down. Emily, your brother made a mistake. I looked at Daniel. What kind of mistake? He looked away. Then my mother answered for him. Daniel has some financial problems. I almost laughed because I had heard those words before. Financial problems. That was always the explanation. How much? I asked. My mother looked uncomfortable. About $45,000. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. $45,000. Daniel finally spoke. I was trying to fix things. I looked at him. Daniel, how did this happen? He explained that he had borrowed money for a business idea that failed. Then he used credit cards to cover expenses. Eventually, everything became too much. I felt sorry for him. He was my brother, but I also felt angry, because this wasn't the first time. Mom, what do you want me to do? My mother reached across the table and held my hand. I need you to help him. I already knew where this was going. How? She hesitated. Then she said something I will never forget. Maybe you can take out a loan. I pulled my hand away. What? Emily, you have good credit. Daniel doesn't. If you help him now, he can pay you back later. I stared at my mother. The woman who taught me responsibility was asking me to risk my future for someone else's mistakes. Mom, I can't do that. Her face changed. Not anger, disappointment. And somehow that hurt even more. He's your brother. Those 4 words made me feel guilty. Because my whole life, I had been taught that family means sacrifice. But I also knew something was wrong. Helping someone is one thing. Destroying your own life to protect someone else's choices is another. I love Daniel, I said, but I can't take responsibility for his debt. My mother didn't answer. She just looked down. At the time, I thought she understood. I thought the conversation was over. I was wrong. A few weeks passed. Life returned to normal. Or at least I thought it did. I continued working at my marketing job. I paid my bills. I planned for my future. I was saving money to buy my first home. Everything seemed fine. Until one afternoon, I received an email from my bank. The subject line immediately caught my attention. Important notice regarding your account. I opened it expecting a normal message, but when I read the details, my heart stopped. There was a credit card account listed under my name that I had never opened. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe someone had the same name. Maybe the bank had mixed up information. I called customer service. After verifying my identity, the representative said, Miss Carter, this account has been active for 3 months. 3 months? I replied. Yes, there are also several other accounts connected to your information. My hands started shaking. What other accounts? The representative listed multiple loans and credit cards, all under my name, all with unpaid balances. I couldn't breathe. Someone had stolen my identity. But the biggest shock came when I asked the question that changed everything. Can you tell me who opened these accounts? There was a pause. Then she said, the applications were submitted using your personal information and documents. Do you know who did it? Another pause. Then, according to our records, the applications were completed from an address connected to your family. My heart sank. My family. There was only one person who had access to my personal documents. My mother. I drove to my mother's house without even thinking. My hands were shaking the entire way. When she opened the door and saw my face, I knew immediately. She knew why I was there. Emily, her voice was quiet, not surprised, not confused, just guilty. I walked inside. Tell me it wasn't you. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. My eyes filled with tears. Mom, what did you do? She started crying. I was trying to help Daniel. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. You stole my identity to help him? No, Emily, I didn't mean to hurt you. Then what did you think would happen? She had no answer. She just kept crying. I thought I could fix it before you found out. Those words hurt more than anything. Not because she made a mistake, because she planned to hide it. She looked at me and said, your brother was going to lose everything. I looked at her. And now I am losing everything. That night, I went home feeling completely broken. The person I trusted most had betrayed me. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about every moment from my childhood, every sacrifice, every promise. Every time my mother told me family comes first. But now I had one question in my mind. How could a mother protect one child by destroying another? And I had no idea that the worst part of the truth was still waiting for me. Because my mother's identity theft was not the only secret she had been hiding. There was something much bigger. Something that would eventually bring police officers to our family home and put my own mother behind bars. For 3 days, I barely spoke to my mother. Every time my phone rang and I saw her name on the screen, I just stared at it. A part of me wanted to answer. A part of me wanted to hear her say that everything was a misunderstanding, that there was some explanation, that my mother, the woman who protected me my entire childhood, was still the same person I loved. But deep down, I already knew the truth. She had made a choice. and that choice destroyed the trust between us. The hardest part wasn't just the money. It wasn't just the damaged credit. It was knowing that my own mother looked at my life and decided my future was something she could risk. A week later, I met with a fraud investigator at my bank. His name was Michael Reynolds. He was calm and professional, but I could tell he had seen situations like mine before. He looked through the documents and asked me questions. When did you first notice suspicious activity? Last month. Did anyone close to you have access to your personal documents? I hesitated. That was the hardest question, because answering honestly meant admitting the truth. My mother. He looked at me carefully. Are you saying your mother may have used your identity? I looked down. I don't want to believe it, but yes. The investigator explained that identity theft was a serious crime, even when it involved family members. I knew that, but hearing it out loud made everything feel real. My mother wasn't just someone who made a bad decision. She had broken the law. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, I heard my brother's voice. Emily, we need to talk. I almost hung up, but something stopped me. About what? There was silence. Then Daniel said, Mom told me you found out. I felt my anger rising. Yes, Daniel, I found out. Emily, listen to me. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not supposed to happen like this. My entire life has been affected. I know. No, you don't. I took a deep breath. Do you know what she did? Daniel was quiet. Then he said something that shocked me. She wasn't trying to steal from you. I laughed bitterly. She opened accounts in my name, Daniel. I know. You knew. That silence answered my question. My heart sank. You knew. Daniel started explaining. At first, he said he only knew that my mother was helping him. He claimed he didn't know she would use my identity. But the more he talked, the more I realized he wasn't telling me everything. Daniel, tell me the truth. I am. No, you're protecting yourself. Finally, after a long pause, he admitted something. My mother wasn't only trying to pay off his debt. She was trying to save him from something much bigger. Months before I discovered the identity theft, Daniel had made a business deal with someone he knew. He had promised investors that he could make a large return on their money. But the business failed. The problem was that some of the money wasn't his. People were demanding repayment. Daniel was scared. He thought his life was over. And that's when my mother stepped in. She believed she could fix everything. She believed she could secretly move money around, pay off the debts, and eventually repay everything before anyone noticed. But she was wrong. Every decision created a bigger problem. The more she tried to cover it up, the deeper she went. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, looking through the documents from the bank. I found something that made me cry. My mother had used copies of my driver's license, my social security information, even old documents I had trusted her to keep safe. These weren't random details. These were pieces of my life, pieces she took without permission. I called her. She answered immediately. Emily. Why? She started crying. I was desperate. Why didn't you ask me? I knew you would say no. Her answer hurt because it was true. She knew exactly what she was doing. You didn't trust me enough to ask, I said. No, I was trying to protect you. Protect me? My voice broke. You ruined my future to protect Daniel's. There was silence. Then my mother whispered, I'm sorry. But sorry wasn't enough anymore. A few days later, investigators contacted me again. They had found more information, more accounts, more documents, more evidence. And they wanted to know if I was willing to officially report the crime. That was the moment my heart broke completely. Because reporting my mother meant sending her into a legal battle. It meant our family name would be involved. It meant everyone would know. But not reporting her meant accepting that what she did was okay. And I couldn't do that. Not for myself. Not for my future. Not even for my mother. The day I filed the official report, I cried the entire way home. I didn't feel like I had won. I didn't feel powerful. I felt empty, because nobody wins when a family falls apart. A few weeks later, police officers arrived at my mother's house. Neighbors watched from their windows. My mother walked outside with tears in her eyes. She didn't fight. She didn't run. She simply looked at me. And in that moment, I saw the woman who raised me. Not a criminal, not a stranger. My mother, but she had made a choice. And now she had to face the consequences. What happened next shocked everyone. Because during the investigation, police discovered something even more painful. My brother Daniel had known more than he admitted. and the truth about his involvement would decide whether my family could ever heal again. The day my mother was arrested was the day my entire family changed forever. For years, I believed that no matter what happened, my family would always stand together. I believed my mother's love was stronger than any problem. I believed my brother and I would always protect each other. But sometimes, the people closest to us are the ones who can hurt us the most. And the truth I discovered after my mother's arrest was something I was never prepared to hear. My brother Daniel had not only known about my identity being stolen, he had benefited from it. After my mother was charged, I expected Daniel to finally admit everything. I thought he would come to me and apologize. I thought he would say, "Emily, I'm sorry. I let this happen. I should have stopped her." But he didn't. Instead, he disappeared. No phone calls, no messages, no explanation. It felt like I had lost my entire family in a matter of weeks. My mother was facing prison. My brother was avoiding me, and I was left trying to repair a life that someone else had damaged. A month later, I received a letter from the district attorney's office. The investigation had moved forward, and they needed me to attend a meeting. I sat across from the prosecutor, a woman named Sarah Mitchell. She placed several documents on the table. "Emily, we need you to understand the full situation." I looked at the papers. "What does that mean?" She took a deep breath. "Your mother did not act alone." My heart stopped. "What are you saying?" She looked at me. "Daniel was aware that accounts were being opened under your name." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "No," she continued. "He may not have completed the paperwork himself, but evidence shows he knew your information was being used." I stared at the documents. My own brother, the little boy I used to protect, the person I defended my entire life. He knew. I called Daniel immediately. This time, I didn't care if I hurt his feelings. I needed the truth. He answered after several rings. "Emily, did you know?" Silence. "Did you know what Mom was doing?" "Emily, I can explain." "No, just answer the question." Another silence. Then he said, "Yes." That one word destroyed something inside me. I closed my eyes. "How long?" "I found out after she opened the first account." "And you said nothing?" I was scared. I couldn't believe it. "You were scared?" My voice started shaking. I was the one whose identity was stolen. "I know." "No, Daniel, you don't know." I felt tears running down my face. "You had a problem and Mom destroyed my life to fix it." "I'm sorry." But those words meant nothing anymore, because I realized something. My mother made the decision, but Daniel allowed it to continue. A few days later, Daniel finally came to my apartment. For the first time in months, we sat face to face. He looked different, older, broken, like the weight of everything had finally caught up with him. "I made mistakes," he said. I looked at him. "Yes, you did. I never wanted this to happen. But it did." He looked down. "Mom was just trying to help me." I shook my head. "No, Daniel. Mom was trying to save you from consequences you created." He didn't answer, because he knew I was right. The court hearing was scheduled 2 months later. Walking into that courtroom was one of the hardest moments of my life. I saw my mother sitting beside her attorney. She looked smaller than I remembered. The woman who once seemed unstoppable now looked afraid. When our eyes met, she started crying. I wanted to run to her. I wanted to hug her, because she was still my mother. But another part of me remembered everything I had lost. My credit, my trust, my sense of security. The judge reviewed the evidence, the financial records, the applications, the documents. Everything proved that my identity had been used without my permission. Then my mother's attorney stood up. He argued that she was not trying to harm me. He said, "My client made a terrible decision because she was trying to protect her son." But the prosecutor responded, "Intent does not erase the damage caused." Those words stayed with me because they were true. My mother may have acted out of love, but love without honesty can still destroy people. Before the judge made a decision, my mother asked to speak. She stood up slowly. Her voice was shaking. "Emily," the entire courtroom became silent. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness." I looked at her. "I spent my whole life trying to protect my children." She wiped her tears. "But I made the biggest mistake a mother can make." She looked at me. "I protected one child by hurting another." Those words broke my heart, because for the first time, she finally understood. "I was afraid of losing Daniel," she continued. "But I never thought about losing you." The courtroom was silent. "I am sorry, Emily." The judge eventually made his decision. My mother was found guilty of identity theft and financial fraud. Because of her age, lack of previous criminal history, and cooperation with investigators, the court considered several factors. But she still had to face consequences. She was sentenced to prison. And as I watched her being taken away, I felt something I never expected. I felt sadness. Not anger, not revenge, just sadness. Because the woman walking away in handcuffs was the same woman who held me when I was sick. The same woman who taught me how to ride a bicycle. The same woman who once promised she would always protect me. But the story wasn't over. Because after the trial, I discovered one final secret. A secret my mother had kept hidden for years. A secret that would change the way I saw everything she had done. And it would force me to make the hardest decision of my life. Should I forgive the person who destroyed my future, or should I walk away forever? After my mother was sentenced, I thought the hardest part was over. I thought once the court made its decision, I could finally move forward. I thought I could repair my credit, rebuild my life, and forget everything that happened. But healing is not that simple. Because when someone you love hurts you, the pain doesn't disappear just because the truth is revealed. Every memory becomes complicated. Every moment from the past starts feeling different. I would look at old family photos and wonder, was my mother always capable of doing this? Or was she just a desperate person who made one terrible choice? Those questions followed me every day. A few weeks after the trial, I received a letter from my mother. At first, I didn't want to open it. I left it sitting on my kitchen table for 3 days. Every time I walked past it, I felt angry. Then I felt guilty. Then I felt confused. Finally, one night I opened it. The letter was several pages long. My mother's handwriting was everywhere. The first line said, "Emily, I don't expect you to forgive me. I only want you to know the truth." I continued reading. She wrote about the day she realized Daniel was in serious trouble. She said she felt like she had failed as a mother. She believed that if Daniel went to prison or lost everything, his life would be destroyed forever. But then she admitted something that shocked me. She had been afraid of losing both of her children. Not because of money, not because of the legal problems, because she believed our family was already falling apart. My mother explained that after my father left, she carried a fear inside her. She was always afraid that her children would leave too. She said she became obsessed with fixing every problem before it became bigger. With Daniel, that meant constantly rescuing him. With me, it meant believing I was strong enough to handle anything, and that was her biggest mistake. She wrote, "I saw you as the child who would be okay. I forgot that strong people can be hurt too." Those words stayed in my mind, because maybe that was the truth. My mother didn't think I needed protection. She thought I could survive anything. But surviving something doesn't mean someone has the right to hurt you. A month later, I visited my mother in prison. I wasn't sure why I went. Maybe I wanted answers. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe a part of me still wanted my mother back. When she entered the visiting room, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked tired. She looked older. But she was still my mother. She sat across from me and immediately started crying. "I don't know why you came," she said. I looked at her. "Neither do I." For a few moments, we just sat there. Then she whispered, "How bad did I hurt you?" That question surprised me because I expected excuses. I expected her to defend herself, but she didn't. She finally understood. "You didn't just hurt my credit," I said. "You hurt my trust." She nodded. "I know. You made me question every memory I have." Tears rolled down her face. "I know." Then she told me something I never expected. Before she was arrested, my mother had started selling her personal belongings. Jewelry, furniture, anything valuable. She was trying to repay as much of the money as possible, not because she wanted a lighter sentence, not because she wanted sympathy. She said she wanted to take responsibility. "I should have protected you," she said. "Instead, I became the person you needed protection from." For the first time since everything happened, I saw real regret. Not excuses, not fear, just regret. But there was still one person missing from the story. Daniel. After the court case, Daniel completely disappeared. He moved to another state. He stopped contacting everyone. At first, I was angry. I thought he was running away from responsibility. But months later, I received a message from him. It was simple. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to tell you the truth." We met at a small coffee shop, the same place where we used to go as children with our mother. Daniel looked nervous. "I ruined everything," he said. I didn't answer. "I was selfish." Still, I stayed quiet. I watched Mom sacrifice everything for me, and I let her do something terrible to you. Finally, he looked at me. I was so focused on saving myself that I didn't care who got hurt. That was the first honest thing he had said in a long time. Daniel told me he had spent months trying to fix his life. He got a new job. He started paying back the people he owed. He was trying to become someone different. But I told him something important. Changing doesn't erase what happened. An apology doesn't automatically rebuild trust. Trust is something you earn slowly. And he understood. Almost a year after everything happened, my life started getting better. My credit was repaired. My finances were stable again. I bought my first home. The dream I thought my mother had destroyed finally became reality. But the biggest change wasn't financial. It was emotional. I learned that family is important. But family does not mean ignoring pain. Family does not mean allowing someone to destroy you. Real love requires honesty. Real love requires accountability. 1 year after my mother's arrest, I visited her again. This time, something felt different. We talked for hours, not as a perfect mother and daughter, but as two people who had both been hurt. Before I left, she held my hand. "I know I may never get back what I lost," she said, "but I hope one day you remember the mother I was before my mistake." I looked at her, and I realized something. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. Forgiveness means choosing not to carry the pain forever. I still remember the day everything changed. The day I discovered my mother stole my identity. The day my family broke apart. The day I watched the person I loved face prison. But I also remember what came after. The truth. The lessons. The healing. My mother made a terrible choice. A choice that hurt me deeply. But one mistake does not erase an entire lifetime of memories. 2 years passed after the day my mother went to prison. 2 years since my entire understanding of family changed. 2 years since I learned that the people we love can sometimes hurt us the most. But those 2 years also taught me something important. Life is not always about who was right and who was wrong. Sometimes life is about understanding how people become the person they are. And sometimes, the hardest forgiveness is not for someone else. It is for yourself. When I look back now, I still remember the pain. I remember opening that email from the bank. I remember seeing accounts I never created. I remember sitting across from my mother and realizing she had betrayed me. Those moments changed me forever. But they also made me stronger. Before everything happened, I thought being strong meant handling everything alone. I thought being the responsible daughter meant staying quiet. I thought protecting my family meant accepting every burden placed on my shoulders. But I learned something different. You can love your family and still set boundaries. You can forgive someone and still remember what they did. You can understand someone's pain without accepting their actions. After my mother was released from prison, our relationship slowly began to change. It was not easy. There were no magical moments where everything suddenly became normal again. Trust doesn't return overnight. It comes back through small actions, through honesty, through patience, through proving that things are different. My mother started attending counseling. She wanted to understand why she made the choices she made. She wanted to become a better person, not just because of the consequences she faced, but because she finally understood the damage she caused. One day, she told me, "Emily, I spent my whole life trying to save my family, but I never learned that saving someone doesn't mean destroying someone else." That sentence stayed with me.